Heathen. Thought of the day.
Look at us. Rome.
I didn't even
Roma.
realise what you were wearing until just now. I love Italy. That's not my thought for today, though. Actually, my thought is going back to horror, specifically, horror cinema. And we very recently did a review for our weekly review show, I Know What You Watched Last Week, where we specifically focused on 3 70s horror movies. And
70s rocks.
yeah, I feel like 70s is one of the less known decades of horror for me.
I was going to say, I'm glad you said for you then.
For me, yeah, because I feel like
Everyone goes on about the 80s, didn't they?
80s is a massive one, and
rightly so. But yeah, the 70s has you could easily say the 70s has the best horror movies of all time.
it's obviously there are going to be so many exceptions, so don't jump out with opinions on this, but it feels to me that the 70s horrors that we watched are more sort of there's more of a feeling throughout that causes the horror. It's like the confusion and an unsettling.
There's a more unhinged,
nature.
anything goes nature to it. Yeah.
Whereas the 80s ones,
Which carries on into the 80s somewhat. But
yeah, but the 80s ones, I also feel like they amp up more of the actual sort of like gore and the actual like physical events happening in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's just from the small selection that I've seen, but it felt very different. The 3 that we watched from the 70s versus the greats from the 80s. Yeah.
So are you now? You've seen more 80s horror than what you have 70s. Now that you are seeing more 70s horror, are you saying that you're starting to lean more into the style of 70s?
Yeah.
Horror.
If you'd asked me,
there is no wrong.
a few
right
months
answer.
ago, I think I probably would have said the 80s was my favourite decade for horror movies. But now, having seen a few from the 70s, I'm definitely intrigued to watch a lot more. And also, I don't think it will ever replace... so 70s might replace 80s as my favourite. However, there are also obviously decades before that, which I've barely delved into. I feel like
the 20s.
Yeah, even
Accent.
20s.
Nosferatu.
The OGs officially.
Grand Guignol stuff as well.
I think
The
the only
50s.
black and white horror I've
Is Psycho, which
seen is
confused
Psycho.
you.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely want to go further back and watch a lot more horror from the previous decades.
I would say there is still a lot because I don't want to bombard you
me.
with everything. There are still a lot of 80s quote unquote classics that I'm keeping back as well, which we'll see. But I was about to say that, but I was about to say Phantasm, but I think the first Phantasm was 79, so even that one is, and then the sequel would have been, to be fair, Phantasm 2 is my favourite, and that one goes into the 80s. But yeah, also with the style of Heathen, it's a mix of 70s and 80s and a little bit of 90s, but not so much 90s horror, more like 90s, if you want to call it thriller films like Seven, for
I was
instance,
gonna
stuff like that, and just a
say,
general aesthetic of the independent movies in the 90s, but certainly not from anything post what do you call it, like basically the CGI years. We're living in the worst time, not just in horror but in cinema right now, in my opinion.
Am I right in thinking as well, when you think of the sort of the core horror movies and characters that have all of their, the toys and T-shirts? And
It's very 80s, yeah.
I was going to say, it seems mostly
It's a very commercial decade.
80s, yeah. And really,
In the good way, though.
until very recently, I think the most recent one would have been Ghostface from Scream, which is when, early 2000s? Have I got that
No.
completely wrong? 90s.
96 that came out. First one.
96, right. So that's from the 90s. And then there was nothing until Terrifier, which has
Art,
become seriously popular. But again, that's the only thing. And you would think in over 2 decades we'd have more
You
than
could
just
kind of
one.
maybe Billy from Saw, the little puppet guy from Saw, and Jigsaw himself.
Oh yeah.
Just maybe not to as much as of an extent, it seems, because I don't, even though I've just mentioned that myself, Jigsaw and Billy the Puppet, it wasn't as much of like a bombardment of it with it everywhere all the time kind of thing, which is a bit strange looking back, really. Yeah, in Heathen, yeah, I've obviously made all the characters figure worthy. That's I don't know if it's been done on purpose, but I guess in a way there's a bit of commercialism in that sense, where
I'm kind of
made
intrigued
it.
to see with Heathen which visual thing ends up being the most
because there
popular.
are so many. Yeah, I've gone like full
I
hog
have a
with it.
feeling I know
Mm-hmm.
which one, but there are other options that spring to mind, which I'm like, well, maybe actually that will be the
Yeah,
breakout.
because some of them are singular, standalone, as in they walk their own path. But there are a couple of characters who, they're not a couple. They're not. It's not a loving couple, but they're just always together. It's almost like
A pair.
they've got to the same place around the same time, and they hang out with each other without even communicating, but they're just always together. And I think those two, because I keep them, especially in the first film, I keep them more under wraps. In the second part, we get more of we do get the, where they originated from and how they turned into what they turned into. But I think just from the way they look and what they're going to be wearing in the first one anyway. For instance, in the party scene when Josh walks into the party, and he sees them sitting in the distance together, and then I don't really then explain much about them after that. They're just there and they do something in particular. One of them comes back towards the end of the movie with Josh. But yeah, I'm going to get too much into Heathen in a minute.
I think the other thing as well that's also just struck me and makes me question whether my initial thought of who would be the obvious figurine, etc. I don't think there's any that I can think of that are female, except for, like
There's the obvious
Tiffany
one.
or so.
Oh right. I thought you were still talking about Heathen. Right?
No,
Yeah,
I'm talking
right.
about like
Okay.
famous, like the
Yeah.
things that people collect.
Yeah, even Tiffany is nothing compared to Chucky, though,
Exactly.
is it?
Tiffany is only there because of
Chucky, yeah.
So I wonder, because obviously in my mind, the obvious breakout from Heathen is a female character. But yeah, she
We kind of
would be
went
the
over that a little bit, didn't we?
first,
When
as
I
far
said
as I'm
that,
aware.
kind of subconsciously, I'd written. I don't want to say a feminist movie. It's not a feminist movie. It's not certainly not on purpose, but it's something that I have read over and over and over again. I think a lot of ladies are going to really resonate with this character, and it's just gonna.
But it's also
You're gonna
she's
see
going to
this
look
character.
different enough that
Exactly.
it's worth having as a
Yeah.
figurine. Whereas a lot of the time, the female characters, like the final girl, it's like, how many jeans and white t-shirts characters do you want to have? So
Yeah, it's the same concept as, let's just go into the woods and have a masked killer. It's just kind of boring and lame. Yeah, do something more. Yeah, very elaborate stuff. So we are very 80s in that sense that we will be making, we're even going to give a go at making our own figurine for it, aren't we? One character in particular. The main character, I'd say. The main character. Yeah. So yeah, that's gone from the 70s to the 80s to the 90s to the noughties all the way back to figurines and back again. So
we love horror.
I haven't even said my thought yet.
Have you not?
No, it's just you. Just you.
That's all we need. Let's call it a day.
Yeah.
Go on then.
My thought is about I'm in the process of doing something that over time, hopefully not much time, is going to be bringing in the first lot of money to get Heathen going. So, yeah, if anyone,
That's your thought.
if anyone, yeah, I'm just saying it. Well, it's not like everyone who wants to make a movie gets something
It's a
going
go.
where they're like, oh, there's actually going to be some money coming. A substantial amount of money where I can actually get the ball really rolling, and to get money men interested in things like that, because once they see that this amount of money's in it, they'll be like, oh, why has this amount of money gone into it? I need to put my money into this now. So we are there. We've gone on so long with your thought that I'll leave it at that, I think. But the money is coming for Heathen.